There's nothing I hate more whenever people try to do like historical revisionism in regards to colonialism. And let me explain why. I hate whenever colonialism is mentioned and people try to downplay the colonialism, done by other groups, because we know, fully about European colonialism. I'd argue there's certain aspects of it that people are kind of clueless about, like colonialism done by the Russian Empire, or colonialism, done by Western Europeans on like Eastern European like pagans like 1,000 years ago and stuff. But besides that, like for example, let me give you a fun fact. Southern Vietnam wasn't always Vietnamese. It originally belonged to an ethnic group called the Cham, which still exists in Vietnam and I believe Cambodia, till this day. But their numbers are much smaller than what it probably used to be, and that's not even counting like the people of partial Cham descent in Vietnam that probably don't even know that they have Cham ancestry. So that's another issue. But yeah, like for example, the Vietnamese were colonial colonists. The Han Chinese were colonists because southeastern China wasn't always Chinese. There's a reason why like the central Yellow River Valley is called like the homeland of the Chinese people. Like Han people literally went to southeastern China, intermarried with like local women, and also like like colonized the place. You know, let me get back on topic. Let me talk about Arab colonialism. I don't understand why people keep trying to downplay it. Like I literally had a disagreement with someone where they literally they literally were supporting my point about Arab colonialism, but I tried to downplay it because it wasn't done by Europeans. First of all, I'd argue it was probably the exact same. Now, let me see something even funnier. It probably lasted. Wait, if European transatlantic slave trade slavery probably started in like 1431. I think it was 1431, and it wasn't necessarily transatlantic, but I remember the Portuguese Empire having sub-Saharan slaves. Okay, 1431 to 18. I'd say probably 1870 at the latest in regards to like all European powers. Brazil doesn't count because it's not a European power; it was an empire. And even then, and even if we are counting Brazil as a European colonial power, okay, 1431 to 1889. Okay, that's 400 years. The Arab slave trade, for example, was over 1,000 because uh, if you know like anything about like the backstory about like the Prophet Muhammad in regards to Islam, I don't remember if it was in the Quran. No, it was in the Quran itself, I think, where he had freed one of his closest companions and one of his bestest friends, Bilal, who was of like Ethiopian and possibly Arab ancestry as well, from slavery. You see, that alone shows that, all right, that alone shows that, slavery was a thing before he was even born. All right. Sub-Saharan African slavery at that. And if he was born in like the 600s, let's say hypothetically it's starting to 500, like in the 500s, right? All right, and go to all the way whenever it was still partially being banned in some parts of the Arab world, like I think it was fully banned in like parts of the Levant in like the 1930s, officially, if I remember so correctly. All right. That's over 1,400 years of a sub-Saharan African slave trade, and that's not even counting the Omani Empire, especially, who was extremely notorious for their slave trade. Now they treated their sub-Saharan slaves uh, in regards to fucking even castrating the men, which is one of the worst things you could literally do to any grown man, which is crazy, man. Yeah, man, and that's not even counting like Afro, like Arab Omanis, like Tipu Tip, where he was literally capturing the slaves in the Congo as recent as like the 1880s or 1890s. So literally, like this shit was insane. This was insane. And remember, that just affected the slaves that were getting caught and shit, right? That didn't affect that. Like that didn't necessarily mean that slavery in Zanzibari lands necessarily ended as a whole. their source ended, but, the presence of slaves didn't end. And this person was trying to downplay and lie about that. Like, buddy, the Arab slave trade was known as more brutal than a transatlantic slave trade for a reason, because it went on like literally 1,100 plus years longer, if not even before that, if we want to be for real, dog. It's just like, bro, like don't try to downplay this shit, because I mean, if the Europeans are getting shit on for their colonialism, if the Malians are getting shit on for their colonialism and slavery, man, if other sub-Saharan tribes are getting shat on for it, if the Tuareg, the Taboo are getting shat on for it, if the fucking South Asians especially are getting shat on for it, if the fucking Russian Empire is getting shat on for it with their serfdom, then I mean, hey, bro, it is what it is. You can't change and lie and downplay history. And let's not ignore about like how like excessive like Arab colonialism was in like the entirety of northern Africa, to the point where there's people of full sub-Saharan African descent from Sudan, and I know I'm about to have some of my Sudani friends watching this. They know exactly what I mean. They're not talking about the people of paternal Arab descent where, by Arab customs, like if you're paternally, descendant, like you could claim that tribe even if your ethnicity is different, right? I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about those quote unquote black Arabs where they claim Arab identity. Yeah, they have no Arab heritage whatsoever, and they speak Arabic as their native language. And I was trying to explain to this person, like, buddy, this is colonialism. This is extreme colonialism. This person tried to downplay it, talking about, oh man, no, blah blah blah. Arabic culture is so syncretic. Nah, buddy, it doesn't work that way. There's a reason why. In sub-Saharan Africa, you'll never see a sub-Saharan African call himself an Englishman or a Frenchman, but you'll always see at least one or two people full sub-Saharan descent, no Arab ancestry whatsoever, no Arab heritage, calling themselves Arab. Like that's a form of extreme colonialism, and that's not even talking about North Africa, where North Africa became a settler state. For example, the average Egyptian, they're ethnically the majority of what their ancestors used to be. Some Arab admixture from Arab tribes and shit like that. Even in Egypt, they kind of make a distinction wherever a person is an Egyptian, a Saidi, a Nubian, a Siwi Berber, or from an actual like true Arab tribe that's still, officially a tribe and stuff like that. They make those differences. But in regards to like Libya, heavily colonized by the Arabs. Algeria, socially colonized, because I think the vast majority are still Berber, like Berber or Arab Berber to some extent. Like they're an ethnically mixed people. Once you got people of ethnicities of non-Arabian origin calling themselves Arab, like, buddy, that's colonialism, man. That's colonialism. It is what it is. Live up to it. Live up to it, man. Like shit, like many people groups, colonized one way or the other. Like the ancestors of the Yamato people, aka the average Japanese person out, they were colonizers. The Ainu were colonizers by technicality, since I think they came from Sakhalin and they left from Sakhalin and colonized like mainland Japan and shit. Y'all know what I mean by quote unquote mainland Japan, but like, why deflect? Why try to do historical revisionism in regards to history? History is history. There's no such thing as good history or bad history. It's history. Don't lie, don't deflect, and people will take you seriously. It is what it is.